Phil had been a school bus driver for what felt like a lifetime, 15 years to be exact. Every weekday, he navigated the familiar routes, his big yellow bus a beacon of routine for the children of Elmwood. He knew every pothole, every turn, and every kid by name, even the ones who tried to sneak an extra cookie from their lunchboxes. One sweltering Tuesday afternoon, as Phil finished his last drop-off and was heading back to the depot, a plume of thick black smoke snaked into the sky ahead. His brow furrowed with concern, he pressed on the gas, thinking it might be a brush fire. But as he rounded the bend onto Maple Street, the sight that greeted him sent a jolt of ice through his veins. A house, one he recognized as the Miller family's, was engulfed in flames. Orange licks of fire danced menacingly from the windows, and the roof had already begun to sag. Panic seized him, but it was quickly overshadowed by a gut feeling he couldn't ignore. He slammed on the brakes, the bus skidding to a halt. As he flung open the door, he heard it, the faint, desperate cries of children. Without a second thought, Phil pulled his keys from the ignition and sprinted towards the burning house. The heat was immense, a physical wall that pushed against him, but he pressed on, shielding his face with his arm. He could see Mrs. Miller outside, hysterical, being held back by a neighbor. "My babies! They're still inside!" she wailed, pointing frantically towards an upstairs window. Phil didn't hesitate. He burst through the front door, the acrid smell of smoke immediately assaulting his senses. The living room was a terrifying inferno, but he remembered Mrs. Miller's cry and headed for the stairs. He called out, his voice hoarse, "Hello, is anyone here?" From upstairs, a small voice whimpered, "Help us!" Guided by the sound, Phil plunged deeper into the smoke-filled house. He found them huddled together in a bedroom, two terrified children, a boy and a girl, coughing uncontrollably. Their eyes, wide with fear, looked up at him as if he were an angel. "It's okay, kids. I'm Phil, your bus driver. We're going to get out of here," he said, his voice surprisingly steady despite the roaring inferno around them. He scooped up the smaller child, the little girl, in one arm and grabbed the boy's hand with the other. The smoke was so thick now it was hard to see, and the heat was becoming unbearable. He knew he had to act fast. He remembered hearing about staying low to avoid the smoke, so he crouched, practically dragging the boy and carried the girl, feeling his way back towards the front door. The journey out felt like an eternity. Debris crashed around them, and the floorboards creaked ominously. Just as they reached the threshold, a blast of heat pushed them forward, sending them tumbling out onto the lawn. Phil rolled over, coughing violently, the children still clutched tightly against him. Mrs. Miller rushed forward, tears streaming down her face as she enveloped her children in a desperate hug. Firefighters were arriving, sirens blaring, but Phil had already done their job for them. In the days that followed, Phil became a local hero. His face was in the newspaper, and the evening news ran a segment about the brave bus driver. People stopped him in the grocery store to shake his hand and thank him. He even received a medal from the mayor. But for Phil, the greatest reward was seeing the Miller children waving to him from their temporary home, their smiles a little less fearful each day. He was just Phil, the bus driver, but that day he had been something more. He had been a lifesaver, and the memory of those terrified eyes looking up at him, then filled with relief, would stay with him forever.